Novak Djokovic says he is extremely disappointed that he faces deportation from Australia after losing his appeal against his visa cancellation. 3 judges upheld the decision made by the country's immigration minister that the tennis star posed a threat to public health. The verdict comes after a 10-day battle between the Serb and the Australian authorities over his vaccine exemption status. It is expected that Djokovic will be deported within hours and could face a 3-year ban from the country. The full reasoning behind the ruling will be published in the coming days. The court's decision was handed down by the Chief Justice of the Federal Court of Australia, James Alsop. Here's some of what he had to say.
The orders of the court are: 1, the amended application be dismissed with costs, such costs to be agreed or failing agreement assessed. 2, reasons to be published at a later date. Those are the orders of the court. The orders of the court are: 1, the amended application be dismissed with costs, such costs to be agreed or failing agreement assessed. 2, reasons to be published at a later date.
Steve Pearce is a journalist specializing in tennis commentary. He's been covering the Australian Open for more than a decade and joins us now from Melbourne. Steve, finally a clear decision on this matter. What more can you tell us?
It's interesting, Michael, that we just heard from the judge there that really what the way the minister framed this and the federal government framed it. We now get, I think, we get a bit of an insight into why this took so many days and why they really came up with what they obviously assumed was a watertight case that, albeit while they would accept a federal court sitting to see if that judicial appeal could be judicial application to the appeal could be heard, they were obviously 100% comfortable that the court was in fact unable, as we just heard, to really make any decision on whether the merit or the wisdom of the decision, and therefore the immigration minister seems, using those personal powers, is free to say that Novak Djokovic, by being here, is will enrage or encourage anti-vaccination sentiment, and the court seemingly has no way to really judge that merit of or wisdom of that decision. So I think we've had an insight into why the earlier the COVID-19 infection and the crosses in the wrong space on those travel forms. I think we can see now why the federal government decided to just park that and not go down that line and go for this version, right, which in fact seems to be that was watertight, and Djokovic will leave the country.
Djokovic says he's disappointed. Obviously he is. What else has he said, if anything?
Look, he said that he respects the court ruling and that he will go along with authorities with his leaving the country. So he's making no further fight of this. He said that he's enormously disappointed, as you said. He did thank all his supporters across Serbia and Melbourne, Australia. And he did, in fairness to him, in a statement, wish the tournament well and said he felt uncomfortable that the focus had been on him for the last 10 days, and he hopes now the tournament can get back underway. But it was a statement that you could tell that he was bitterly disappointed that he won't get the opportunity to win that 10th title and what would have been a 21st major. And as you mentioned, it's completely up in the air as to whether he'll be able to return to Australia in the next 3 years.
Where is Djokovic right now, and how will this play out over the next few hours?
Well, we understand that he was while the court hearing was underway and until the decision came down, he was at the offices of his lawyers. Immigration officials should escort him up to the airport once he's ready to depart. And you would imagine that he'd be on a flight out of Melbourne this evening, because now that the court case is done, he will want to be out of here very quickly. There'll be no reason to hang around. He will. I'm sure he won't try to delay it. And I think that statement gave you an indication that he'll be gone within just a few hours and make sure that he's on a flight. And border officials would be pretty happy with that now that the visa is cancelled and he's got no right to be in Australia.
The Australian Open starts on Monday, of course, and as we now know, without the defending champion and world #1, who had been drawn to play on Monday evening, by the way. What does that mean logistically for the tournament?
It's not too much of a logistical nightmare, apart from, of course, losing the world number one is a bit of a nightmare from the eyeballs perspective and advertisers, etc. But all that happens is now that we're so close to the tournament, a lucky loser, someone who just failed in qualifying, will come in and play Djokovic's appointment. But we will see, I'm sure, a rejig of the schedule because that match will clearly not be on centre court now on the Monday night. So there'll be a bit of a rejig, but it's actually not unusual for top players to drop out of the tournament towards when it's about to start. It does happen, usually through injury, of course, not through being deported. This is unique.
That is Steve Pearce in Melbourne. Many thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Michael.